Alright, my name is Michi and this is my behavior change project video summary presentation. My goal and my why. My goal for starters was to remain active and work out and exercise outside of practice. The reason I initially made this goal was because I heard the freshman 15 was a thing. That scared me, especially because I've been on this journey to cut weight and everything. I started probably roughly my senior year of high school. So when I got on campus and I heard about the freshman 15, it kind of really scared me. So when I heard about we had to make a behavior change project, that's what the first thing that came to mind was to cut weight and just find ways to exercise. So that's why I decided to make my goal exercising outside of practice, because obviously like my body's going to get used to and being comfortable with practice, workouts, and games. But I feel like the factor that can change everything is me finding times outside of that to work out, get cardio, get stronger, get faster, and all that. My why, the basketball benefits just of cutting weight and exercising, just being smaller, being able to jump higher, run faster, stay in the game longer. Any advantage when it comes to college basketball, after playing this year, I definitely needed it. So looking back, that is one of the main reasons why my goal is what it is. So as far as setting a schedule goes, with my planning aspect, it was tough at first because obviously with my head coach and assistant coach, when it comes to scheduling like practices, he has to uphold to everyone's needs, so not just mine. So one day we might have practice at 5 o'clock, and the next day it might be at 3 because the perfect time for everyone is 3 o'clock. So it's just about adjusting my schedule to fit in, to work out and get these exercises and cardio and strength and conditioning in outside of practice and games and stuff. Especially like having a hectic schedule. When it went into planning, I needed to make sure my personal schedule, as far as my behavior change project goal went, was able to do that and counteract everything or every obstacle I might have ran into. Holding myself accountable as well as having accountability partners. Holding myself accountable was definitely something that I really felt was necessary in my planning stages, because it's happened in the past when I've tried to do things like this, like beforehand. I would like stay on plan, stay on course for maybe a week or two, and then I would get distracted and not work out as much or not eat the right stuff. So definitely working on holding myself accountable was definitely necessary to write down as far as my planning goes. And having accountability partners is also what helps into that. I had accountability partners such as my roommate, Tyler, always reminded me, like, did you work out today? We didn't have practice or we didn't have a game. It was an off day. Did you lift? Did you do something? Did you get going? Did you get your exercising that was necessary as far as your behavior change project? And I also had my girlfriend who helped me out a lot, just reminding me to stay on track, supporting me through this 8-week process. So it helped out a lot. Lastly, finding activities that fit into the time frame. As far as activities goes and just getting exercise, it was just hard to find time because I needed activities to fit that worked in my schedule, as well as activities that were long enough and activities that I would enjoy in that time frame so I could get things done. But that's about it as far as my planning goes. Alright, here I'm going to now talk about the summaries throughout my 8-week process and how it went and how everything turned out. Week 1, the beginning of the 8-week journey. This was probably obviously like one of my easier weeks, least amount of exercise because we're just trying to get into the groove of things. I started off this week with 30 minutes of exercise outside of practice and games. It was easy because an aspect of me being excited for it, me being anxious to get started on this whole process. And Any barriers to think about? Probably not, just because it wasn't that much amount of time, and this week wasn't really hectic as far as practice and games go. Week 2, getting on track. Week 2 wasn't really much of a struggle as well. Only bumped it up to 35 minutes outside of practice now of exercise, so this wasn't that big of a jump. But this week didn't really have as barriers as well. Maybe a little just finding time, even though there wasn't as much like games. I think we had 2 games this week, but that wasn't that bad because usually when we have a game, we have a day off. So in that day off, like I rested after the first game, and after we had another game, I ended up getting my exercise in for that week. Week 3, finding a steady routine. This is kind of when scheduling and planning did me justice. Just finding a steady routine as far as exercising. I bumped it up to 45 minutes this week. So this was kind of a solid week for me. This was a great week for me to get my heart rate going. I think I definitely played basketball this week. That was my exercise. So week 3 being, I would say, getting towards my turning point, having something that I enjoy to do as my exercise for the week definitely was a positive. As far as week 4 goes, focusing on maintaining my routine. This week, I feel like we're really getting to my turning point. I would say that would be around week 5. But the first month, as far as this week went, this was definitely very tough because this was getting closer to the playoffs. This was the week right before the playoffs. We had to go all the way down to Georgia. It was hard to find time, especially with my time getting bumped up to an hour. And an hour of exercise outside of practice and games. Like, the games started to wear in on me because it's towards the end of the season, so everyone's giving their all. This is where we're pushing winner go home time. Seeding matters. So finding time to actually push myself and get out and exercise was definitely kind of tough. Week 6 was easier because the season was now over. We ended up unfortunately losing in the first round of playoffs, but in the aspect of the behavior change project, it was a positive only because there's no season to work around. There's no more practices. It's all focused around my individual needs and goals. So with that being said, even though we did up the time to 65 minutes, that wasn't that hard as far as just basing it around class and school and homework and balancing all that. Week 7, routine is the toughest it's going to get. I went to an hour and a half. We were up to around 90 minutes of exercise outside of everything, but with the season being over and the exercising at high it's going to get, it was definitely tough. There were definitely some barriers because I think this was pushing. I had quizzes and exams, so this was pushing my limit a little bit just because of the aspect of me having to work around that, me focusing on exercising while maintaining my schoolwork and finding, again, like I said previously, finding balance with all that. But I ended up getting through week 7 just fine. Following the final week 8 of my behavior change project. This was, I feel like, week 1 was my easiest of the first 4, and I would say week 8 was my easiest of my last 4, only because I knew I was pushing towards the end of the project. I was excited just to see how far I've become, and this was definitely a great experience for me as far as these weeks went by. Overall project success or failure? I wouldn't call it a success, but I would not call it a failure. What I mean by this is I wouldn't call it officially success because I didn't fully meet my goals in the aspect of cutting all the weight I wanted to. But I did, in fact, cut weight. That's why I kind of called it a success. But as far as what I would do next time, if I were to repeat the project, I would definitely figure out ways to incorporate heavy dietary actions, as far as maybe avoiding dining, finding ways maybe to me to get some groceries so I can cook for myself. Because as we talked about in class, we talked about how diet goes into a lot of weight loss and eating right. So like all the exercise I was putting in, all the work I was putting in, it was doing its job, but not as much as I wanted it to. And I feel like the main reason was because my diet wasn't probably the best it could have been. So that's definitely one of the main things that I would change on this project moving forward. But I do feel like this project overall was a step in the right direction as far as me focusing on my next step, which is completing the process of cutting my weight completely so I can be more athletic and a better basketball player because of it.